Hi there, guys. It's Alec here. A quick way to build a traditional T account or a general ledger, but that looks like a T account. It's something that an accountant really understands very well. When they have a look at a T account, it's just something phenomenal. So I want to show you how you can actually do that, and how you can use MyBI to do audits of transactions holistically. Okay, so if I pop over here into something like the balance sheet, it's going to give me in this database the full balance sheet, which balances to zero, like we know. But if you want to see a transaction that happened, it's not always easy to know where the debits and the credits went. Okay, so that's where the functionality of drill down really helps. So if I do something like this, I just open the months. This helps me to see my balance sheet by month. And I can also see a little bit more deep by also putting details, adding this plus button or just pressing on it on the level I want to see. If I want to see more detail, then I can just plus the details button, similar to what you would do on a pivot table to say show detail. Okay, and then if I want to see a little bit more, let's say land and buildings here, I go and I can open it up even more and then close it from there again. All right, now if I want to see a transaction, like I said, for instance, if you have a look here and I say, okay, in this month, the 12th month, I want to see a transaction, I can click on the zero because that will give me access to all the underlying transactions that build up that zero. Now this draws into an enriched GL, which is your full general ledger, just like you would find in your Pastel partner or Sage 50 Cloud. This is built for me 4,595 rows. Now, I always say if we add this up, it must balance to zero. So that is zero. If I just add a comma to it, you'll see it will just take two decimals, and that is zero over 4,000 rows. But I can, for instance, not see where exactly these debits and credits went. This is a invoice number. I can see it's in the same day, but I don't know where all the debits and credits went, and I don't know all the transaction, the legs of the transactions. How would I find that? We've got a field. Remember now, when you want to pivot, always know your fields. That's very important. So firstly, what I'll do is I'll extract to take it out of the app itself. I'll just export it. So I clicked on MyBI, and on this little column here, I'll just say export. That'll take it to another sheet, a separate sheet for me. I'll click in the table, into the pivot table, right? There we go. Okay. So one of the fields inside of this table is called transaction ID. That's a standard field that comes from your Pastel database. So I'll say transaction ID. So that's the first thing I'll do over here. Okay, filter it. Then I want to go and I want to put in my amount over there. Now this is just, at this stage it's not going to show me anything. It's just going to show zero. Okay, then I want to see account. Okay, so this is actually building me my trial balance for that specific month. Okay, now if I go back here, I just want to go and see what is the transaction ID of this specific entry. So I'm just going to highlight this row, and then I'm going to go to that field called transaction ID. It's 5626. So if I go and I say, okay, on my filter here, just go and filter 5626. There we go. And there we go. That's firstly what was actually processed and how it was processed. Now, we don't really, we're not computers that always understand a account number immediately. So we can add the account description. There we go. Then head on over to design and just say report layout tabular and do not show subtotals. So you can see it's becoming something nice. And then there's another field that we've added called debit and credit. Now it looks interesting. So what we've done on the credit side is if you add it to your columns, you'll suddenly see the debit and the credit pops. Debits on the left, typically like a T account, and credits on the right. Now that debit has got a space in front of it right there, and that's why it's alphabetically by computer seen in front of the C. So that's why it's popping over to the left, by the way. So that's that transaction. We said we credited sales by 5,000, we debited cost of sales, and then we credited inventory. So this obviously was a sale, that triggered inventory being processed immediately. And I think we can learn a lot from how the actual Pastel mind works in the back end when we look at it like this. Now, that's just for one transaction ID, but check what happens if we unfilter this. We go all, and we don't leave it here, but we rather, so firstly, that's a trial balance already in debits and credits format. But if we move this over into the rows, then we've got a full list of transaction IDs on the left and a T account principal on the right, showing us how this transaction ID was processed, bank account was credited here, and supply control was debited, and so forth for the whole month. We can actually see this in a T account format where we can see it visually very easy and audit it obviously quite simply. We can also add something like reference if we wanted to, just to go and say, show me the reference as well. There, the reference pops up. So that Z contra is always a very complicated one to identify which transaction it relates to. And then something like if you wanted to, you can add entity name, which tells you who you actually processed against, if it was processed as an invoice for a customer related transaction, or it was processed as a supplier. So just by the way, you'll see we enrich every single transaction. So this 4722 account, for instance, or this transaction, that is a invoice that was processed. But you'll see on every single leg of this transaction, we've identified that this relates to customer number 9. On the VAT control leg, so that's your VAT leg. On the gross leg, which is this customer control account leg, the 8,000, even the inventory leg that triggered this transaction, we also say this relates to the customer 9, and then your cost of sale and sales legs. That means, you can suddenly see a lot of actual holistic data or data combinations, and you can analyze across the entire impact of each customer transaction, and then obviously do some great analysis with that. All right, guys, that's how you build a traditional T account. Okay, have a great day. Bye.